So, earlier today, I saw the new version of Carrie. In the week or so leading up to its release, I noticed a lot of new comments on my review of the original, which was part of the Stephen King 28 Reviews Later feature. So I figured since I'm seeing it anyway, I better do a review. First, I want to say that when seeing remakes, I have no preconceived notions about them being remakes. Obviously, if I've seen the original and I'm seeing a remake, I will be making comparisons and judging it against the original. But what I'm trying to say is that I'm not anti-remake like a lot of online critics seem to be. You know the type. They call every remake pointless. They constantly spout about how Hollywood is out of ideas, despite the fact that this is nothing new at all, and they just go into it with the notion that it's going to suck. Are all remakes pointless? No. Some of them are, like the remake of Psycho. That recreated the movie, just replacing the actors, and it's in color, but it's shot for shot, so what's the point? You can, and you should, make callbacks to the source material, but don't copy it without making your own statement. Anyway, this is actually the second remake of Carrie. The first was a made-for-TV movie that, for one reason or another, I just never saw. This one, however, got my attention due to the casting of Julianne Moore as Carrie's mother. I think she's one of the great underrated actresses out there, and her casting gave a lot of weight to my decision to actually see this. You probably already know the plot. Chloe Moretz plays Carrie White, a young girl with strange powers and an even stranger upbringing. Her extremely religious mother seems to believe the whole world is evil and has her own insane slant on Christianity and is fearful of the world in general. Carrie has telekinetic powers, something that her mother believes to be satanic in origin, but is actually genetic. Carrie is mostly invisible in her school. She's an awkward girl who isn't actively hated, but most of the kids think she's strange. Due to this, she's a loner. But she longs to be part of the crowd. After getting her period very late in life in a school shower, she's mercilessly taunted and pretty much assaulted by a group of girls, one of which even takes a video with her cell phone and later uploads it to YouTube. Carrie is traumatized and her mother is too insane to be helpful. She believes the period is a punishment from God for some sin and locks Carrie in a prayer closet. Meanwhile, the girls who taunted and attacked her are all punished severely by their PE teacher, who puts them through the ringer, and anybody who rebels against the punishment will be suspended and unable to go to the prom, which is what happens to Chris, who is just an evil, evil girl and thinks that she did nothing wrong. The other main girl, Sue, feels badly for her involvement, and when her boyfriend Tommy suggests that she makes it up to Carrie somehow, she decides to deny herself the prom and have Tommy take Carrie instead, which she thinks will boost her self-esteem, as well as make sure that Sue herself feels better about what she did. Carrie, meanwhile, is practicing with her powers, which also gives her a little boost. She's still extremely awkward and shy, and this is where I have to praise the acting of Chloe Moretz. Now, I've seen her in a bunch of movies, and, well, she's never really been on my radar, because she's always been one of those child actresses that is just kinda there. She's most famous for her role in Kick-Ass, which I absolutely hated, and she did nothing for me in that movie, but here I'm seeing her flex her acting muscles a little. She uses body language a lot. Everything about her as Carrie is awkward and fearful. And you see the emergence of a more confident person coming out, but it's slow and it's a struggle. The story of Carrie is really about growing up and coming out of your shell. She's overcoming her overbearing mother and the cruel classmates, but when they push her too far, she of course comes back with even more fervor due to her powers. So yeah, you know the story, right? I don't need to spell it out. Chris and her scumbag boyfriend rig the pig's blood and make it so that Carrie will win the prom queen, and it'll get dumped on her. This remake one-ups it from the original and from the book by them also playing the video of her in the shower being pelted by tampons at the same time to just add to the cruelty. Carrie goes berserk and kills pretty much everyone with her powers. Carrie in this remake radiates power and menace when she's raging. It's like PMS times a million. You know Wonder Woman? Imagine Wonder Woman on PMS. It's kind of like that. Just a whirlwind of blood and carnage. Don't fuck with a chick with superpowers. It seems this time the pig's blood humiliates and upsets her, but that isn't what sets her over the edge, but rather the heavy metal bucket falling on Tommy and killing him. That absolutely destroys her sanity. This is something from the book that didn't make it into the 70s movie, which was nice. Carrie eventually calms down after destroying half the town and getting revenge on all who wronged her and quite a few who were just in the way, and she goes back to her mother. She seems to revert back to her old self, but her mother attacks her and pays the ultimate price for it. And even Sue appearing and trying to help her isn't enough. Carrie has had enough of the world and collapses the house on herself, burying her with her mother. This version seems to be more faithful to the book, both in its basic plot and execution, and also in its tone. Though it's obviously heavily modernized, it feels more like a Stephen King movie. I like the original Carrie, but one thing that could be said is that it was mostly a teen drama until the end when it switches to horror for about 10 minutes. This modern version does a great job of building tension, and it's mostly related to Julianne Moore as Margaret White, who exudes insanity, but not in the goofy way of the original. In the original, she just kind of came off as a crazy chick, but it seemed like it was played for laughs. In this, she seems crazy, but in a really creepy way. She cuts herself, she hits her head against things. She comes off less like a religious nut and more like someone who has real mental problems, and her perverse slant on the Bible doesn't help things. There are a few things that are open interpretation, like the first scene. It shows Carrie being born. This is also from the book. Margaret is woefully miseducated and never made the connection between sex and babies. She believes sex is evil. Her husband basically raped her at one point, and because she enjoyed it, she thinks that she's also sinful, and that the growth in her belly was a cancer that God gave her as punishment. She's actually really confused when Carrie is born and tries to immediately kill her, but when she tells the story to Carrie later, she says something stopped her. Was it maternal love? Well, that's certainly the way she says it, but the movie also suggests that Carrie, even at birth, had enough power to defend herself. Watch when Carrie's mother tries to stab the baby with shears. Right when she stops, there's an ominous sound effect. This plays whenever she uses her powers. There's some callbacks to the original. The final scene plays with something that the first one did, and the principal getting her name wrong, that's from the first movie, though this time he only does it once. And the way Carrie kills her mom owes more to the first film than the book. But for the most part, it felt more like the book than the first movie, which I liked. I was unsure what to think going in, but going out, I feel it was really good. If I had to criticize anything, it'd be some of the casting. Chloe Moretz is a teenager, but it's clear that most of the classmates are played by much older actresses. With Sue Snell, I can't complain too much because, goddamn, that girl playing as her is hot, man. Holy shit. Okay, so I guess that's not a complaint, just an observation. Carrie is not a pointless remake. It has a lot of heart, and it builds tension really well to a very satisfying conclusion. Dare I say that it's better than the original? Well, fuck you anyway. Who cares what you think? Yeah, I enjoyed this one more. It happens sometimes. Can remakes never be better than the original? Of course they can be better. Look at Scarface or John Carpenter's version of The Thing. There you go. 9 out of 10. Highly recommended.